Alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, and I'm bringing you another Yu Yu Hakusho segment, bringing you our first episode, and yes, our first episode of Yu Yu Hakusho Chapter Chat, and I guess you could say this is kind of like a Yu Yu Hakusho version of my Thought for Talk series that I created for Blackenfist. So I'm going to start doing a lot more Yu Yu Hakusho discussions with Mike from Laughingstock Media every Saturday. So Mike, do you have anything you'd like to say about our new series?
Well, it's going to be chock full of Yu Yu Hakusho goodness, I guess.
Well, in the first topic, we felt that we should talk about something that is probably the most demanded thing to discuss with Yu Yu Hakusho. And it is, should Yu Yu Hakusho make a return? And I have a lot of things that I have to say about this. And so does Mike from Laughingstock Media. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video. So Mike, should the legendary Yu Yu Hakusho anime / manga make a return, and why?
Yes, I believe it should. It's still popular, apparently, considering that there was a video game called J-Stars that came out in which Yu Yu Hakusho characters are featured. Yu Yu Hakusho is still a very influential series, considering that it influenced both Bleach and Naruto, which are both very popular long-running series at this point. Yu Yu Hakusho still was an open ending when you think about it. I think it had the perfect ending for a series, to be honest. Or if they really redid the ending of the, just the final arc in general, I think that there's lots of things that they could have changed. I'd be all for it. We know kind of how Togashi is as a writer. I mean, Hunter x Hunter fans, I'm sure, are still waiting for more.
Yoshiro Togashi originally had an intention to have another arc end the series where it was essentially an all-out war between the demons and the humans. And he never got a chance to do that because the editors wanted him to put an extra tournament at the end of the series. And because of this, I feel like that took away from a lot of what could have possibly happened in the series. I thought the Three Kings saga was solid, but I felt that it was the weakest out of the 4 sagas, and I'll obviously link you to a video I did in the past about my rankings of the 4 arcs in Yu Yu Hakusho. So, I mean, when you look at the 4 arcs, I feel like if they had like an all-out war, that would have been very different from what we had seen. Because we had already seen a Dark Tournament, we had already seen, the arc, the adventure-esque arc where we saw them, going up to fight the 4 Saint Beasts. We saw the Spirit Detective, arc, and we saw the Sunsui arc and everything along those lines. And then those 3 main arcs, they were all unique in their own way. And I felt that if you had like an all-out war, which would have tailored very well as a complement to what had happened in the Chapter Black arc, where we were seeing that there could have possibly been a war if all those demons had their chance to get in the human world. And Mike, you know as well as I do, those demons would be hungry to fight human.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a weird ending too when you think about it. How they gotta just put down the Kikai barrier and they just opened up relations between the human and the demon world. Because even though there's like these kings that kind of, say we could do this or do that, there's a lot of crazy demons who probably aren't going to listen to what the king has to say or really care. I mean, they're demons at the end of the day. So you kind of feel like lowering that barrier would just lead to all-out war and hell going on Earth. So, yeah, I mean, if they got loose, they came to Earth, that could be a big problem.
We know that sometimes you can redo an entire series where essentially you're kind of redoing whatever happened before. It's kind of like what Dragon Ball got with Dragon Ball Super, for example. The series is still what it is. They're not redoing the whole thing, even though Kai kind of did that with the voice acting and stuff. Yu Yu Hakusho could easily write in a new arc, considering the fact that, we see at the end of the series, Yusuke comes back, he and Keiko are playing on the beach with a group of friends, and you could write off a complete story right after that. You could talk about so many things that could have happened in the demon world, and the show could literally pick back up right after where it was. Unlike a lot of other arcs that have completely ended, Yu Yu Hakusho left on such an open note that it would be perfect to come back to. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, also, like, talking about them redoing the animation stuff, I actually wouldn't be against that, to be honest. I think that actually could be good. They did a similar thing for Hunter x Hunter, and of course Hunter x Hunter, wasn't anywhere near as far along back then as it, kind of is today, even though he's on a kind of delay, hiatus. But I feel like that would be good too, to try and, if they're going to continue it, they could just, update the stuff, but they don't really have to. Yeah, I mean, like Qaaman said, there's so much space and room for stuff. There's a lot of stuff they could still explain and get into, and it'd be really interesting if they did. Like, I'd love to see it, obviously. Like, I'd love to see him come back to the series and avenge him.
Now, Mike, this brings me to asking you, two more questions. What would you like to see personally in Yu Yu Hakusho if it were to make a comeback? What are you looking forward to?
So I'd love to just see more character development. Maybe the characters are a little bit older now. You never know. I mean, they were all still basically teenagers at the end of the series, aside from obviously Hiei and to an extent Kurama. So it'd be interesting to see them as, like, actual adults at this point, dealing with adult problems, you know what I mean? So it'd be really interesting to see that move further along and, seeing those characters develop like that. And, of course, I'd love more action, but, I mean, I would be far more interested in a new, like, all-out war or something completely different than what we've seen before, as opposed to seeing yet another tournament or, more of the same. I just feel like doing that, maybe going to new locations, going a little bit more into what, demons are and, afterlife, and there's so many different things and different avenues they can go down, so I'd love to see stuff like that.
For me personally, I am looking a little bit more towards seeing newer characters, and not just newer characters, but more of a backstory to things. Like, for example, where we saw how Hiei acquired the Jagan Eye, that's something I would like to see, more of the history of Kurama, more of the original intentions that, Togashi wanted, everything along those lines, hearing, seeing a little bit more about what happened to Genkai, even though, if you actually look at the manga, Genkai actually passed away at the end of the series, as opposed to in the anime where she was actually still alive. And, like, little things like this I'd like to see, and the reason I think it'd be a little complicated is because the manga for Yu Yu Hakusho is very different from the anime, and it's a little bit different from Dragon Ball, in the sense that in Dragon Ball, the anime is just an adaptation of the manga, but there weren't that many major changes. But with Yu Yu Hakusho, there were some serious changes that Mike and I are going to talk about in the future. And because of that, it's kind of hard to say, what route are you going to take? Are you going to take the route of the manga, or are you going to take the route of the anime? And in that sense, you got to find what story works best for both audiences, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. And, to close this out, I just wanted to ask, would you like to see an extra movie, and do you think an extra movie could, put Yu Yu Hakusho back on the map, kind of like what happened with Battle of Gods? Obviously, after me and you just did our reviews for the Golden Seal.
Obviously, that seemed like it was something that really worked for Dragon Ball. I mean, as long as they don't redo the new movies as episodes in the series once again, kind of like they did, they are doing with Dragon Ball at this point in time. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a new real movie that actually continues the story, and maybe they can go from there, as long as Togashi is up for it. And he's not even that old right now, to be honest. He was pretty young when he started doing Yu Yu Hakusho and stuff like that. I think as long as he wants to go back to that, as long as someone can convince him or, drop enough money bags on his doorstep, I think anything is possible.
When you're saying that you want a more realistic movie, you're probably looking forward to something that's actually a part of the story, because we can both agree that Golden Seal and the Poltergeist Report really are hard to put into the main timeline, because it kind of doesn't make sense for how those characters would have had time to enter that arc during the point of time that those movies were supposed to take place. So to put a realistic movie, I think, could possibly add a lot more towards the series, and I think that there's just definitely enough fans out there. I mean, to tell you the truth, Mike and I are doing this Yu Yu Hakusho stuff not just because we like it, but we've had a lot of fans who are telling us how much they love the series and they want us to do videos on it. And I think one day a week is the least we could do, and, the fan base is still very active and alive, and I think that Yu Yu Hakusho could make a comeback. And should it make a comeback? I think so. I think the monetary gain is possible. Look how much excitement there was for Super. The fact that Mike was saying this whole thing about J-Stars is definitely telling you how popular the show is. And a lot of people were saying the popularity is not enough, but I mean, I definitely think it could, and I think it could compete with even Hunter x Hunter, which is another, marvel of, Yoshiro Togashi. So those are my overall thoughts. Mike, do you have anything you'd like to conclude with?
I'd just like to say that I think the fan base really is there. It's just that they haven't been given enough of a voice over the years, as much as somebody like, a Dragon Ball fan or something like that. But I feel like there is a way to get them back up in arms. I mean, they all watch Yu Yu Hakusho's, spiritual successor in a lot of ways, I'm sure, which is Hunter x Hunter. So I feel like at the end of the day, they really would be interested in seeing this again, and I feel like it's really there. So, if I can kind of drum the war, drums to get that going, then I'd be very happy to.
So, guys, that has been our video for today. Overall, these are my thoughts. Mike and I obviously support Yu Yu Hakusho coming back, and do we think it could make a comeback, and should it make a comeback? We say yes to both. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, and what you guys think about Yu Yu Hakusho and any other chapter chat, discussions that you want us to do. The way it's going to work is similar to what I do with Blackenfist. In this case, all the odd episodes are going to go on my channel, all the evens are going to go on his, and we're going to make this a pretty big series. So most importantly, over everything else, what, Mike?
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
And please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.